Let's bring in Art Briles, though, the Baylor head coach. How tough was yesterday for you, Art?
You know, it was a little bit of an emotional roller coaster. You know, I mean, it's kind of a bittersweet moment. I mean, we're in the process of celebrating winning the Big 12 back-to-back, which has only happened one other time in the existence of the league. And, at the same time, hoping that we would get into the Final Four when it was released. So, a variety of emotions without question.
We were discussing earlier in the show about the Ohio State name. And if it wasn't Ohio State, maybe they wouldn't have had the committee's vote there. How much do you think Ohio State's name helped them get that fourth spot?
You certainly hope zero, because, like you say, I mean, I think you should just judge, by the bodies of work. And that was my contention about putting the resumes on the wall, taking the names off of them, then picking your top 4 resumes.
In the past, and I know that the Big 12 has not had a championship game in a little bit, but have you been in favor of having a championship game?
Yeah, I kind of like it, quite honestly, because, you're not having to play everybody within your league every year. I mean, every couple of years you switch over and play some different teams. When you play each team year in and year out, I mean, you get to know each other. The rivalries increase, of course, and, there's a lot of history. So to me, and I've done it both ways. I mean, when you split and play, 4 from this side, 3 from the other, or 5 and 3, whatever the situation may be, it's certainly the rivalry part of it is lessened without question. If
there was a championship game and you had a rematch between Baylor and TCU, would the winner of that game, do you believe, have had that 4 spot?
I mean, it's all speculation, and at this point in time, I think if you ask 10 people that, 5 may say yes and 5 may say no. So it's a deal where it is what it is. I mean, we did the best that we could do. We felt like having a repeat as a conference champion would give us a good shot, and I'm sure it was close. It just wasn't close enough.
How frustrating was it for you to have the head-to-head advantage against TCU and the same record and not be declared the outright champion?
Well, I mean, that, by our bylaws, we're considered co-champs, but by the placement of the Big 12 into bowl games, we go first because of the head-to-head.
What did you say to your players?
Hadn't seen them. I mean, we celebrated Saturday night. Sunday, yesterday was, a pretty busy day, and today they're back in class, going to school, getting their education.
Okay, what will you say to your players?
I probably won't see them till later on in the week, and tell them congratulations. Ask them if they feel like a champ, because they should.
Will you watch the Final Four?
It depends on when the games are. I mean, we got a game we're playing. We're in the Cotton Bowl, so I'm concerned with Michigan State and the Cotton Bowl right now.
One of the questions that's come up, and we're talking Art Briles, Baylor head coach, one of the questions that has come up is about scheduling out-of-conference games. You guys did not have the strongest out-of-conference schedule. Will that impact, what happened this year impact how you schedule games going forward?
Most schedules are made up years in advance. Of course, ours is no different. I'm sure it'll be something that'll be looked at. If we can accommodate, then we certainly will.
If you were to change anything for the committee going forward, I know you've talked about adding somebody from Texas, the South, someone representing your division more. What would you change?
I think that'd be the number one thing. I just think, they're dealing with the whole nation, the committee, and they're in a tough spot. But I think there certainly needs equal representation, throughout the United States. And I think if you looked at the committee, I think most of them are tied up a little bit more to the north than they are to the south. And now Archie Manning was on the committee, and Archie would have been a great voice, for this part of the nation, because he knows football first and foremost, but he knows this part of the United States. So when he, had his issues and wasn't able to be on the committee, I felt like we were in a little bit of trouble. Felt like we lost a big voice down here.
How about Mike Singletary? Would you want him on the committee?
Love to have him on the committee, just not because he's better, just because he's a football guy. He knows the game. That's what it's about, and he's a little bit, younger. He's a guy that may not, be so closely associated with brand name as he is, instant results.
Despite everything that's happened, Art, is this system better than what they had with the BCS?
I like the BCS. I've always been a guy that, whatever the rules are, we'll follow them. The BCS was good, and the playoff system is good.
Good to visit with you, Art. No, it's a busy day. Appreciate your time here.
Thank you a bunch.
That's Art Briles, Baylor head football coach.